It's time to start crushing your cinematic Instagram game. In today's episode, I show you how to edit, export, and upload high-quality vertical videos to your Instagram stories. I'm Zach, and this is episode number 1 of The Edit. Okay, so the first step before we go into the actual edit is talking about how to shoot your video. Now, if you're filming it on your cell phone, it's pretty easy. Just film straight up vertical, and then when you import it into your computer, it's a pretty easy translation over. But if you're shooting on, let's say, your DSLR, there's a little bit of extra work. You have to start shooting all of your videos in a vertical format, almost like you're taking a portrait. So start filming in portrait mode. If you do shoot horizontal, which we'll kind of touch on really briefly in this episode, it's a little bit more difficult because the framing of your shot is going to be off and the resolution isn't going to be the greatest. With that being said, let's get into Premiere Pro and start playing around with this. So I'm going to call this Insta Edit, and the first thing you want to do is go into your sequence settings. Now, the first thing you're going to look at is you're going to change your editing mode to custom. Keep your time-based frame rate at 23.976. It's going to say 1920 by 1080. Now we're going to change that. We're going to flip it over, crazy, 1080 by 1920. Now, if we press enter, that's going to create a vertical video right here. Crazy, right? So essentially the next thing that you want to do is import your video that you shot. Here's, let's say, the first clip. I'm going to bring it and drag and drop it into my timeline. Now it's going to ask me if I want to change the sequence settings. I'm going to keep the existing sequence settings. I have the clip inside my viewer here. Now what you're going to realize is that the clip is sideways. That's not going to work. So the first thing you want to do is go into effects and controls. What I want you to go down to is your rotation. And what you're going to change, and this might change depending on how you filmed it. I filmed mine going horizontally to the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go -90 and press enter, and that's gonna flip it right back up again. Now, depending on how you filmed it, it might be just 90 degrees or -90. So that's one thing that might change per video, but I know all of mine will be at -90. So now we have it set up. Vertically, so the clip fits nice and beautifully. Everything works out really well. So now it's time to start importing a lot of our shots to the sequence. So we've got a nice shot of Raven here. Let's bring that in. And what you're gonna realize is a lot of your clips are now going the opposite way, and it's kind of starting to get annoying. That's not going to work because, I mean, you've got such a crazy fast timeline and turnaround. Well, what you can do, and this is kind of what I've done, is I've been able to do quick basic assemblies with my edit sideways, and then once I've kind of figured out everything that I like, so let's import a couple more shots. That one's horizontal, so we got this nice little beauty shot. So once I've kind of assembled my timeline to a point that I kind of like, I know the shots that I want, what I'll do is I'll actually go through, and this is one really handy tool. So you can go to your first clip that you've done that rotation to. You're gonna press Command-C, that's gonna copy that. Then you're gonna highlight your other clips, right-click them, and go up to Paste Attributes. Now that's gonna paste over, you wanna just make sure motion is selected, and that's gonna paste over that rotation to all of your other clips. So now you've kind of batch selected all of these, and now they all have that vertical rotation. So now it's kind of fun. You can just edit it the same way you would edit any other clip. The only suggestion that I would recommend is, since it is going on Instagram, a couple things that you should keep in mind is that your videos will cut at every 15-second mark. So what I like to do is find the 15-second mark in this to try and make sure there's an edit mark on there, so then when it skips over in my stories, it's not super jarring. Or maybe you want to assemble it kind of like this. Just got some new coffee, breakfast. Oh, that was way too hot. Wrap this Christmas present. I've got to wrap it. I don't have any wrapping paper. Okay, so I've got this. Who needs wrapping? So that it skips a shot or it isn't a valuable piece of dialogue. Another key point to keep in mind when creating your cinematic Instagram stories is to develop the story in a realm that only lives about 2 minutes max. You don't want to make a full feature film Instagram story. I mean, that would be amazing, but try and keep it to a shorter length. Okay, so let's say you have a horizontal clip, one that you really like. So I really love this shot kind of peeking across the horizon. I'm gonna drag and drop that into my timeline. So what we're gonna see is that it looks like that, and obviously I can't rotate it. So what you wanna do is just go into your effects controls and just scale it to fit the whole clip. Now, this will come in a little softer. It's not gonna be high as res, because I shot this at 1080, so now we're scaling it in, and I'm gonna be losing some resolution. But if it helps enhance my story, the nice thing is when you're viewing on a cell phone, especially in Instagram stories, it's not super 4K or HD. It's not gonna be blown up on a big screen. Okay, so once I've figured out my story, I've got it all assembled here. You can throw a quick color grade over it and basically just treat it like any other edit. Then you go File, Export Media, and the one thing you just want to make sure basically with all your export settings is that it is obviously exporting into vertical mode. So what I want to do, so I'm going to change this over into H.264. I'm going to change my preset over to actually YouTube. And that's obviously going to change it now to 1920 by 1080. So I just want to rotate this really quick, 1080 by 1920. Boom, that's going to make sure that this is now in vertical mode. And then I'm gonna scroll down, take a look. Okay, square pixels is all good. Everything's looking good. And then I'm gonna change VBR to CBR, so it's a little bit easier to control my export settings. And it doesn't really have to be super large, so I'm actually gonna scale this down a bit. And I always like to keep my Instagram videos under 100 megabytes just because I have to import it onto my cell phone and the upload time is not going to take as long. Okay, so once your video is fully exported, the next couple steps will change depending on what system you're on. Now, since I utilize Mac, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my AirDrop preferences and actually share my video from my laptop to my cell phone. Now that your video's on your cell phone, the next couple steps are pretty straightforward. What you wanna do is take your video and import it into an app called Cut Story. So what you do is open up Cut Story, press video, and then go into your camera roll. Once you've opened up your camera roll, scroll down to find the video that you've exported. So I've got mine here, Nova 1. It's gonna import it, and I'm going to press save. Now it's gonna ask me what export settings I wanna set it to, and I'm gonna click mine to Instagram, which is 15 seconds. But there's a bunch of other options available. You can utilize Facebook, there's WhatsApp. So once it's exported through Cut Story, the final step in a long journey, which is now importing it into my Instagram story, which from here is pretty simple. I just press onto my stories, and then import each individual video as it plays out. And that is it, you guys. That is how you do a cinematic Instagram story. Now, I've been practicing and playing around with this for the past couple weeks, and I've absolutely loved it. It sparked a new interest in creating new narrative content, and I think there's just something really inspiring about utilizing something like Instagram as a new video platform. It's somewhere that you can look really impressive because a lot of people are just uploading cell phone content, and it's somewhere that you can really experiment with brand new stories because at the end of the day, it's only up there for 24 hours. So if you don't really like the story, it's gone immediately. Zach here from The Edit. Thanks for watching. You can follow my cinematic Instagram stories on my Instagram at Zach Ramelan. But until next time, keep cranking out some good stuff, and I'm looking forward to seeing your epic stories of 2018. See you guys later.